The other issue I want to get to before my guest gets in is Greenland. Greenland. I want to show you something. This is Trump sitting with the head honcho at NATO, Rutte. I think it's Mark Rutte, or Rutte. Listen to what Trump says about another NATO country. This video is precisely why Trump effectively cucks Europe. Rutte gets cucked here. And for those of you who know what that means, it means a husband, boyfriend, watching his wife have sex with another woman and just stands there with his penis in his hand. That's Rutte in this video. Trump effectively says, we are going to take Greenland. We're going to take Greenland. We have troops stationed there. And we're going to take it. We're going to get it. And Rutte sits there like, huh, interesting. Okay, what do you mean interesting, right? He didn't say interesting. I'm just saying Rutte sits there as the president, sits there with the leader of NATO and says, we are going to take a country that belongs to a NATO nation. And he does not have a hyperbolic response. He sits there as submissive as can be. Vassals. The reason that he can do this, when we blew up Nord Stream, you couldn't get Europe, despite the fact that it's damages. It's an act of terrorism on European soil. And the best that you can get out of Europe is the Russians blew up their own pipeline. And then it changed to Ukrainians did it. A few Ukrainians in a dinghy did it. And then it moved again to, okay, well, the Ukrainian state didn't really do it. It was a bunch of rich Ukrainians that decided at a drunken night that they were going to blow up a pipeline. They found the dinghy and they found divers to go into this dinghy and they blew up the pipeline. And so Zelensky is at fault because Zelensky had the idea. Now, this is pretty rich. Zelensky was sent into exile into the UK. And as a political opponent of Zelensky, there were threats to Zelensky that they would put him in a cage if he tried to run against Zelensky. Now, what Trump needs is his own man in Ukraine. And I'm not going into the Ukraine thing. I'm just trying to point out, if you as an American president stands there with the German chancellor and you say, we will blow up the pipeline if Russia goes into Ukraine. Russia goes into Ukraine, they blow up the pipeline. You as a German chancellor does not have a hyperbolic reaction of blowing up a pipeline that your country put billions of dollars into and completely required for the energy security of Germany. How submissive can you be? And so if you're an American president and you see that, okay, then Europe is passive. They're submissive. We can do whatever we want, including take Greenland. Listen to Trump here in the state. This is an astonishing statement to make, where you continuously point out, we are going to take Greenland. We are going to take Greenland. And what does Europe? Don't piss Trump off. Be submissive. Put your ass up for him. But don't piss off the gorilla.
Greenland. What is your vision for the potential annexation of Greenland and getting them potentially?
Well, I think it'll happen. And I'm just thinking, I didn't give it much thought before, but I'm sitting with a man that could be very instrumental. You know, Mark, we need that for international security, not just security, international. We have a lot of our favorite players, cruising around the coast, and we have to be careful. And we'll be talking to you. It's a very appropriate, really a very appropriate question.
It's an issue in the high north, so the Arctic. So what you did. So when it comes to Greenland, yes or not joining the US, I would leave that outside for me, this discussion, because I don't want to drag NATO in that. But when it comes to the high north and the Arctic, you are totally right. The Chinese are now using these routes. We know that the Russians are rearming. We know we have a lack of icebreakers.
I just want to point out, this Mark Rutte, head of NATO, and Trump is effectively saying, we are going to take Greenland. Does Greenland get a choice? According to Trump, maybe, maybe not. He is sitting here, and instead of pushing back on this, he's agreeing. He's agreeing. How do you agree to this? How are you sitting here with the US president saying, I am going to annex territory that does not belong to me for national security reasons? Okay, well, you can take Canada, under national security reasons. You can try to take Mexico under national security reasons. You can take anything under national security reasons that you define. So the notion that Trump is sitting here, we're going to take Greenland. And Mark, I'm glad you're sitting here with me because, this may be pertinent to you as part of NATO. Okay, but that's weird. Greenland already has NATO troops on it, meaning it's already militarized in the sense of if anything pops off, NATO is already there. So why does the US need to annex it if it's already militarized? And the NATO commander, who should have a say in this, considering Denmark is part of NATO, just sits there with his thumb in his ass and agrees with the president in order to keep confusion down on that issue. How are you not rejecting this? How are you not saying, Mr. President, no, you can't take Greenland. They don't want to be part of the United States. Greenland has already said they don't want to be part of the United States. How you can't take Greenland? He cannot find anything in him to disagree on any level with Donald Trump, as Donald Trump sitting there saying they're going to annex territory that belongs to a NATO nation. That is astonishing. And not just astonishing, it gets across why Trump doesn't. Meaning, if I can make you submissive as you sit here beside me and we talk about something that should be off the table, then what stops me from taking it? What stops me from pushing on this issue? Nothing. Nothing. I'm going to let it play out. I'm not going to play the entirety of the video, but I'm going to play this one more time just to make the point crystal clear.
Greenland. What is your vision for the potential annexation of Greenland and getting them potentially?
Well, I think it'll happen, and I'm just thinking, I didn't give it much thought before, but I'm sitting with a man that could be very instrumental. Mark, we need that for international security, not just security, international. We have a lot of our favorite players, cruising around the coast, and we have to be careful. And we'll be talking to you. It's a very appropriate, really a very appropriate question.
It's an issue in the high north, so the Arctic. So what you did. So when it comes to Greenland, yes or not joining the US, I would leave that outside for me this discussion because I don't want to drag NATO in that. But when it comes to the high north and the Arctic, you are totally right. The Chinese are now using these routes. We know that the Russians are rearming. We know we have a lack of icebreakers. So the fact that the outside Russia, there are 7 Arctic countries working together on this under US leadership is very important to make sure that that region, that part of the world stays safe. And we know things are changing there and we have to be there.
Well, we just had an election there the other day. Do you see a referendum, a plebiscite where the people of Greenland would be in a position to decide if they want to become part of the United States?
Yeah, it was a good election for us, as you know. It was not a referendum. It wouldn't be called that. It was an individual election. But the person that did the best is a very good person, as far as we're concerned. And so we'll be talking about it, and it's very important. Mark mentioned the word icebreaker. So we've ordered, we're in the process of ordering 48 icebreakers. And Canada wants to know if they could use them. I said, well, you got to pay for them. Think of it, Canada. We pay for their military. Canada pays very little for their military because they think we're going to protect them. But even with the icebreakers, so we're going to order 48, and Canada wants to be part of the deal.
So this is where he goes into the whole Canada should be part of the United States. They should be the 51st state. We're not going to protect them. They shouldn't have this belief that we're going to protect them. This is the threats against Canada. I'm pointing out it is astonishing that the president is sitting here effectively talking about annexing Greenland, part or owned by a NATO country. And the NATO director, Mark Rutte, is sitting there and he is not pushing back on this to any extent. He is just agreeing with Trump on the issue of, well, yeah, we need security and security is an issue. And so, I understand where Trump is coming from on this. I'm not going to get involved. However, I will say that Russia and China is a problem. Russia and China uses these routes, blah, 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 blah. He has just said that he is going to potentially annex a country that is part of NATO. And your response is weakness. That is astonishing. And my point is the exact reason that Trump does this is because he can. It's because he can. It's because he has that weak opposition coming out of Europe that effectively allows him to be the gorilla in the room without any backbone at all in Europe that would say, Mr. President, no, and say no to his face. They wouldn't do it. They can't do it. And so Trump does what Trump does. This is astonishing to me. I think I had Rutte on once, and Rutte said, Trump will get Greenland. And I said, how the hell do you suppose Trump gets Greenland? Trump will get Greenland. And all the conversations that were apparently taking place behind the scenes was don't piss Trump off. Effectively, don't be aggressive with your no, don't push back, don't make him angry, this type of nonsense. And then you get Rutte sitting here, complete inability to say no, complete inability to say, hey, this is a NATO nation. The NATO nation thing is, inviolable. We can't break this up in the way that you're talking about, effectively stealing a country that has said on more than one occasion, it does not want to be part of the United States. That is an amazing clip. That is an amazing clip. That clip tells you everything you need to know about Europe, and why the U.S. treats Europe as a vassal state. It's amazing. To make this even more clear, you have Vance talking about Greenland, effectively saying Europe will scream, we don't care. We don't care what is coming out of Europe. We don't care if they're going to bitch and moan about it. We don't care. We need Greenland. Full stop. Period. That's all that matters, that we get our hands on it. That's all that matters. We don't care Europe's point of view on this issue.
Of America's citizens first. There's another.
Do you expect the U.S. to acquire Greenland?
I think it's possible, Maria. So here's the thing that I think a lot of folks don't appreciate about Greenland. It's really important to our national security. There are sea lanes there that the Chinese use, that the Russians use, that frankly, Denmark, which controls Greenland, it's not doing its job and it's not being a good ally. So you have to ask yourself, how are we going to solve that problem, solve our own national security? If that means that we need to take more territorial interest in Greenland, that is what President Trump is going to do, because he doesn't care about what the Europeans scream at us. He cares about putting the interests of America's citizens first. There's another angle to this whole Greenland thing, Maria, that people don't realize. You've got probably 55,000 people living on Greenland who are not actually happy with Danish government. They've got great natural resources there. They've got an incredibly bountiful country that the Danes aren't letting them develop and explore. Of course, Donald Trump would take a different approach if he was the leader of Greenland.
We don't care what Europe thinks. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. We don't give an F what Europe thinks. If we need Greenland for our own security, then we will take steps to deal with that issue. I don't care that the Europeans are going to scream. I don't care that the Europeans are going to take a different point of view. We don't care. That is amazing. Like, you must understand, the vice president of the United States is effectively saying our transatlantic partners, our allies, will complain bitterly about the fact that the U.S. is annexing territory that belongs to Europe, and that Europe will complain about it, but they can't do anything about it. So we don't care. They have no hard power solution. They're not going to raise a military. They're not going to come after us. They're not going to do anything about it. They can't fight us. They can't beat us. If we take it, we take it. The best they can do is bitch and moan. And we don't care about the bitching and moaning. The weight of their condemnation in no way matters from our policy position on this issue. That is astonishing to say. It's like the fact that you say that out loud. That is a level of disrespect. That is epic. It is scope and tone. I don't care what you think. And again, we're talking about people who are ostensibly allies. Allies that we have been fighting the Russians with, these allies, for the last 3 years. And Vance just came out, I don't care what they think. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. That is an astonishing statement. Will Trump get his hands on Greenland? I have no idea. I have zero idea. If they go with this notion that we're going to annex it and we're going to use the troops at our disposal to do so, can he do that? I have no idea. Will he do that? I have no idea. Is this bluster? Is this him posturing? with this notion of Greenland in order to try to get his hands on Greenland, meaning taking this kind of extreme position with the idea of getting something out of it because he's taking an extreme position. Like if you and I are talking and I say, I want your car. I'm not giving you my car. Okay, maybe I'm taking this position because maybe I need a ride. And maybe you'll give me that ride in negotiations about the car. It's that. The issue with this is we don't own Greenland. We have no claims on Greenland. We have no right to Greenland. He just wants it. He just wants it. And in his mind, Europe can't do anything about it if we decide to take it. Now, the catch is Trump taking this position because he just wants something in the negotiation, meaning I am taking this position. I am threatening you, yes, but I don't want to enact that threat. It's like a mob, right? That's a nice building you got. It'd be a shame if anything happened to it. I'm not saying anything is going to happen to it. I'm just saying it would be a shame if it did. So let's talk about ways to ensure that nothing happens to your business. Well, I don't want to give you money in order to keep my business afloat. I understand that. I do. I'm a compassionate man. Very compassionate. And I don't want to see anything happen to your business. So let's talk about ways to ensure that nothing happens to your business. Is it that? I'm just saying that's astonishing. I've never heard anything like that. If we need to take it, we will take it. Screw Europe. Screw Europe. We don't care if Europe complains. We will take it. That is an amazing statement. That is an amazing statement. That is a level of radical disrespect that I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like that coming out of the White House, especially when it's targeted at Europe. They would never say it with Russia. He would never say this with China. Meaning Trump would never say, we're going to take Taiwan. They would never do it because China actually has a military that will blow our shit out the water. And Russia has just shown militarily that they can defeat all of these countries combined militarily. So you can't do that with him, which makes it fascinating that he's doing it with Europe. Oh, it's fascinating. That is just utterly,